Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We believe digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, we believe digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good evening and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi in the We Believe broadcast studio. We're being seen and heard all over the world. For my friends in Vietnam, I know Doc spent a lot of time over there, and we're glad you guys are watching. To our friends all over this country, we're growing each and every day. If you're watching us on Facebook, then share this program with your friends and family. Send us stars and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the program, share it with friends and families. Now, you can find us on TikTok, on Twitch, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all of your platforms. Wherever you get your streaming information from, you can find We Believe Digital Broadcast Studio right there. Now, this program is designed to share information that you won't find anywhere else in the world. We dig back into Mississippi's rich history. Some of it is not so rich, some of it is poor history, but it's history nonetheless. And we talk a lot about African Americans and their failed leadership or the lack of leadership or the lack of understanding of what is required to move our community forward. As always, Doc, it's good to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I'm proud to be here. This is the great state of Mississippi. Hinds County is the county I love and been in that county off and on for a long time. And I don't think there's no reason to leave Mississippi proclaiming that it's the worst state in the world and then go to California, New York, or Alabama and catch more hell than people that were there for the last 200 years. Staying here in Mississippi is a great move for anyone that wants to have something economically. There's a lot of land, there are a lot of homes to buy, there's a lot of good folks, even though there are a few bad ones. But when you outweigh all the negatives, Mississippi is a great country. And I want all my relatives from Chicago, California, Minnesota, and especially those 400 Hendersons that's up in Indianapolis to move back to Mississippi. Mr. Socrates, they left in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and now those jokers want to come back. We had an activity this 2 weeks ago, and a lot of them came back for a few weeks, and I'm telling you, they were praising us about what's going on in Mississippi. They said we're living in heaven in Mississippi compared to what they're doing in those so-called northern and western states.
Well, Doc, as a little boy, I recall my relatives would come home from Chicago and Gary, Indiana, and Detroit, and they would be driving some of the finest automobiles that money could buy, Doc. And I was so envious of them because we didn't have those kind of vehicles down here in Mississippi.
Well, you're right. Mine did the same. And on top of that, my old relatives were coming down in suits and ties, and they would wear them every time they go and visit some relatives, even in the summertime. And I knew all those Negroes were rich until I found out later they were renting those clothes from the Goodwill store or buying them or borrowing them from others in the community, and they had us fooled. And when I finally visited Chicago when I was about 18 or 19, I knew then that I had paradise, even though I was on a plantation at the time in Mississippi, because I had some things that they didn't have. I had a job, I had a food, clothing, and shelter. And if I got real sick, I could go to the veterinarian and get some medical care.
Go where?
To the veterinarian, get some medical care,
Wow.
and we couldn't go to the doctor.
Okay.
But we made it. And I think now there was some good training for me and millions of others in the South to have those hard roads. And now some of us have been able to look back on it and joke about it and say that was a good experience.
We laugh about it, Doc, and we joke about it sometimes. I don't know if that experience was necessary to build the kind of men that we are today, but we went through it. We survived it, and we overcame most of it. But Doc, Mississippi has a dark side as well. And back in the days when we had the Trail of Tears and we had all the reclassifications, and some of your relatives were classified as white and some were classified as black. And so you had a breakup of the family structure down there. And my old relatives hid out in the swamp of Mississippi. That's down around Lee County on the Pearl River, where no man still doesn't travel down in that area. And Doc, the last time I was on my boat and I went up the Pearl River to the northern dam up there, I went through some communities on the river that would remind you of 100 years ago. They got the rebel flags flying everywhere in the trees. And it takes a certain amount of courage just to drive your boat up through there, because, at any point in time, someone could shoot at you or they could do harm to you because you were by yourself in a boat up on the northern end of Pearl River. And so I encourage anybody that's want to visit Mississippi to look at all of Mississippi. Get in your boat and go up on the north end and take a look and see what you see. See how you feel about that. People sometimes living in trees, sometimes living in tents, sometimes living openly on the sand, on the beach, but they're proud and they're flying the Confederate flag. They didn't take it down, Doc. They're flying the Confederate flag, and those are proud Mississippians as well.
Well, nothing wrong with that. If you feel that you can build your self-esteem and maintain the old way in your mind that you are important because of the Confederacy, and to many, they didn't keep the old flag, but they still have it in their mind. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with the people flying the Confederate flag when they have a new one in the state, and the people worse than those that are flying the flag up on the river that you mentioned. And the other thing that is important is that most of them are the same. They have not changed their minds socially about anything. And the poor ones are feeling proud that they are not black. I told you this some time ago, and nothing wrong with that. You have to have something to keep you moving forward and make you feel strong and make you think that your life is going to change. And many times you got to go to the past to find those things.
Well, Doc, how about going to church? How about, going, being filled with the Spirit that keeps you going, not really looking backwards at a time when, men were enslaved and oppressed and treated wrongfully? How about finding a new way to get your self-esteem?
Well, that's a good thing to go to church to get a new way. But I'm going to tell you right now, my experience, I went to church Saturday, and there's not a lot going on in church that's going to help people that don't have anything. You don't have the preachers being very proactive on anything. They're not teaching investments. They're not teaching and enhancing ideas and strategies to their membership about going to school in a serious manner. They are just maintaining the status quo. You see, churches have nice buildings. The one I went to last week had a nice building. I understand they have about 200 members. They are looking good, but they don't have any programs, not one program. They don't do anything for the community, but they keep the grass cut. They have that meeting once a week, on Sundays. for an hour or two, and they go home and eat and enjoy football and basketball during the various seasons. So they are living the good life. And the poorest members are still suffering. They are looking for heaven. They are looking for money. They want jobs and no one to teach them.
Well, Doc, I think we teach them that salvation is the answer. That if we would just turn from our wicked ways and try to live according to the Ten Commandments and the commandments brought by Moses, not 10 commandments that brought by Doc or somebody. And so if we would live that way, that in the end, we would be rewarded and we would go to a place that we say the streets are filled with gold and there's milk and honey and there's no suffering and no pain. If there is such a place, Doc, that's a wonderful thing to try and get there.
Well, there's no such place, Mr. Sock. I'm telling you right now. This heaven and hell concept are man-made ideas that they paraphrase from the Bible. And it is just like being a dope addict to believe that kind of stuff. We call it opiating the minds of people, to whip them in line and have them scared so they won't get too aggressive when you tell them something during life. You don't want to scare them and have them feeling important where they fight for their rights economically, politically, socially. So if you tell them that there's something waiting for them, if they be nice, kind, and considerate and forgive, that helps tremendously those that don't believe that, that's passing the laws, taking all the money, building themselves up in a rich manner and controlling everything from birth to death for everybody.
Wow, Doc. Let's get into the news of the day. Now, the young attorney Carlos Moore has been attacked in the social media, particularly in the blogs and some other newspapers. And because he spoke out about the Nolan Wells case that continues to be a mystery down here in Mississippi, we as of this date don't have an identified cause of death for a young man on the 4th of July that went out with a group of friends, only black in the group. And the young man did not return home, and his body was later discovered in the ocean there at Ocean Springs. And as of this is July the 28th, Doc, and we still don't have a cause of death for this young man.
Well, I'm going to tell you, from what I've been reading and hearing, and I've been watching this case now for several weeks, you're not going to have any major positive conclusions because the evidence has been alterated to the point where you can have all the autopsies you want. And you're going to find that there are missing organs here and there. Some have been released, some have not. And as the body is moved around, is getting older and older, decay is setting in, and you will never have all the facts. So when you get a grand jury and you have certain people presenting the information and the evidence and lack of evidence, it might be a good possibility that there are no indictments, that it just might be an accident, or they might say, we don't have enough information to know what happened, so we're going to make this inconclusive and just say, we're going to hold this case for a few more months and see what discovered. And there are awards out for information, and eventually you're going to have some information coming forth, probably from social media, probably from someone who want to pick up $30,000 or $40,000. But see, that information is not going to be used if it's not given to a grand jury. And if you're interested in making things quiet, maintaining the status quo, and doing like you've always done in high-powered cases like this, you just let it fade out. That is nothing new in the world, and especially in the United States.
Now, this is 2026, not 1956. This is 2026. A young man is dead. There is a cause of death. Now, we are able to tell you where Saddam Hussein was hiding. We've been able to tell you where the Iran's Ayatollah was hiding. We can pinpoint exactly anything in the world. We can identify a nickel on the ground in Iran. We have all the forensic evidence, and you bring up something that is disturbing. That is that an autopsy, the second autopsy was performed, but there were missing organs. I didn't know you could remove someone's organs without them having declared that they want to donate their organs, and they put that on their driver's license. Other than that, you're supposed to leave the body intact, Doc.
Well, whatever supposed to happen doesn't always happen when you make the law and you can carry out the law the way you want to do it. That is nothing new with people taking out organs and hiding them or putting in a bag somewhere and putting those organs in a refrigerator, and they never pass them on. I've known that to happen all during my lifetime. After I was in my late teens, I've heard of cases like that. You just don't ever have all the organs moving with the body when it's a controversial case being developed. Legally, you can keep those organs and wait for what they call the toxicology report. So you can look at the organ and see whether there are drugs involved and other things. So that's nothing new. And I don't think it's going to change anytime. That's the way the law and the states in any state can protect themselves if they don't want to have a thorough investigation of a criminal act or a proposed or alleged criminal act.
Now, Doc, I want you to reverse the scenario. Let's say that it was 14 black boys that went out there with one white boy. Do you think we would have a conclusive synopsis on what caused his death? And do you think that one or all 14 of them would have been indicted?
You don't have to go any further. Yes, I know the answer to that. All of them would have been indicted at least 24 hours after they found the body, at least 24 hours. And then they would have been accused of being guilty until they were found innocent. And that is the fact. History proves that year after year. There have been thousands of cases where when something happened to the Caucasian race in America and blacks or Indians or others or Mexicans were involved, allegedly, they were always arrested immediately, put in jail, and many of them were hanged, shot, and scalded, castrated even before trial, because the law enforcement officers would let them be picked up by the posses and kill them on the spot. They would leave church to go to these hangings, and nobody would ever be prosecuted. Of course, there is a difference there. But this is not going to happen. Everyone there at this Wells case, all of those young people are not going to be interviewed. And you're going to find that some of the major characters that were there are going to allege that that boy was their friends, and they are not going to be questioned at all. And if they do question them, you're not going to know what they were asked.
Now, Doc, that doesn't sound like justice to me.
There is no such thing as justice in the world for people that make the law, enforce the law, and execute the law to the point where they make decisions on your life or your liberty.
Well, Attorney Carlos Moore is catching hell because he made some comments about this case, saying that it was clearly an incident that should bring forth an indictment, and some people should be charged with the crime associated with this young man's death. Now, your governor of the state of Mississippi has spoken out, and his remarks are drawing a great deal of criticism in the African-American community. The governor has stated that it is people like Al Sharpton and Attorney Ben Crump that are causing the problems, and they are in fact racist, and that they are stirring up Mississippi in a negative way. He proclaims that Mississippi is a wonderful place for everybody to live, and he thinks that Al Sharpton and Attorney Ben Crump should leave the state.
Well, now they always said that every time you had a major death among with black folks, ever since I can remember, that's what the leading politicians said. But now I have to admit the governor is not wrong with the methods that Sharpton, Mr. Lee, Spike Lee, and Trump, they are here for economic gains. We all know that. Those guys are alleged to be ambulance chasers, and Tyler Perry and others, they are looking for the big bucks. And there will be some money floating around because they are going to eventually try to file a case against somebody and get some money for the family. They're already getting thousands and thousands of dollars through social media. And one day, in a few months, you're going to hear about a major book being written by certain people, major movies being written, and then you're going to have probably a family drama that's going to be running on a certain television station in Georgia, where they're going to have a whole series of a similar family, and they're going to mock up a situation that'll be running 2 or 3 years. Money will be made in all directions from this case.
Now, Doc, Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, and Tyler Perry have each put up over $50,000 individually for information that leading to arrest in this crime. And so, yeah, they may make money from attorney's fees and a settlement. I don't know what the settlement rates are these days for attorneys. It could be as high as 30, 40% or whatever they settle for.
That's exactly right.
And so that you're not opposed to people being compensated for the work that they do if they bring about a verdict and get damages for this family. They should be entitled to compensation.
Well, they should. They should get millions. All 4 of them should get millions of dollars. Like I say, this is a business. Murder and money making, all considered big businesses in any state. Any way you can make some money, legal or illegal, you can have protections if you have big money sponsors behind you, and it's all about making the money. So those guys are doing the right thing. They have money. They're going to try to find some evidence. The longer they can prolong this case, there'll be more and more money made, and that's good economic sense, in my opinion.
Doc, it's been almost 30 days. Almost 30 days. That's long enough for the Mississippi Crime Lab, the district attorney to share with the public what their findings are. Why is it taking so long?
Well, it's very simple. They don't want to expedite this case. And I heard once they say, well, they probably going to be much longer because that's not the only criminal case that they are investigating. You know, they have to go to the crime lab, and they have hundreds and thousands of cases that are being investigated and getting information on them. So you're not going to expedite something like this hot and forget about those other thousands that you have. They're going to play this thing out until we start forgetting to talk about it. And then you're going to have that case disappear.
Now, I recall a case where a young man was buried in a pauper's grave, and his mother was looking for him. And then they finally discovered that he was buried in a pauper's grave out there, and he had his driver's license in his pocket.
Yeah, you're talking about that Raymond case?
Yes.
Yeah, in Hinds County.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing new. I'm very familiar with that graveyard. I was able to see that back in the 1960s. It's been there for years. And that's a good thing for people that can't afford to bury their folks. No. And you find that the police a lot of times don't put a lot of respect when they find paupers and homeless people dead. They don't make a strong effort to notify the parents or relatives. They say, we've been seeing this person on the street for 10 years. Nobody care nothing about it. So they just bury them in a pauper grave, give them a number, and forget about it.
Doc, I come out of the country. We didn't have anything like a pauper's grave. Everybody was buried in the cemetery at the church. Now, we didn't have a general place for unknown people to go. Well, one thing, most people in the country was related to one another.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so, there may be 2 or 3 cemeteries, because there were a lot of churches, and every church had a cemetery almost. And so, but we didn't have a proper cemetery.
Well, that was different during that time. People pulled together. The community would get together and dig the grave, bury the people, have a good church service, and talk about it later in a negative manner once they get home. But they would take care of those folks. Now, people done moved all over the country. Parents been separated due to drugs and alcohol and abuse, and their son or daughter might be in the next town. They haven't seen them in 5 or 10 years, so naturally they don't know where they are and don't care in many instances because they have caused so many problems, for years.
Wow.
You have a tendency to forget people that can cause you to spend your money. They didn't look out for themselves, and now here they are disappearing, and you feel good sometimes, according to some of the people I've talked to throughout the years.
Now, Doc, I recall women coming to church on Saturday and not on Sunday. We used to have funerals on Sunday, but the ministers decided that was cutting into their money. So we don't have funerals on Sunday anymore. You have them on Saturday.
Yeah, we had one on Saturday 2 weeks ago. And that's what you're supposed to do. A good minister shouldn't allow any burials on Sunday, not on his major day of preaching. That is a sacred day for economic development. We know it, you know it, and you want to help your preacher maintain his status in the community, because if he starts off in your community, you're supposed to take care of him so he can move to another community, get him a good ride, get his kids in a position where they can go to the university on a scholarship that you all going to give him. And that's economics again. All of this stuff is about economic development and enhancement these days.
We're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to deal with the governor's remarks a little bit longer. I want to get a clear understanding of our governor's position as it relates to this case and as it relates to race relations in the state of Mississippi. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What a beautiful day outside. Great day to be working with the We Believe Digital Network. Oh, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I wasn't expecting you to be here yet, but since you're here, hey, welcome to the We Believe Digital Network, where we make your dreams come true. We have a podcast station and a radio station that I'm about to show you. Come on inside. Okay, so now that you're inside, let me take you into the room where we make all the magic happen, right here in the We Believe Digital podcast and radio station studio itself. All right, then, y'all ready? Let's go. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes room of the We Believe Digital podcast, where all the podcast and engineering happens when we make all the magic happen. I am your engineer, CAD engineer, JB. How you doing? Hope all is well. Currently right now at the We Believe Digital Network, we have a deal going on for $99 an hour studio sessions. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Let us know if you want it. And reach out to your team and we'll build your dream. Have a good one. Oh, come on in. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes of the We Believe Digital radio station, where everything We Believe Digital radio takes place. I am currently mixing and mastering a playlist for the radio station. Speaking of that, if you have any suggestions or even your own songs or podcasts or talk shows that you might want to be featured right here on the radio station, you can email us at webelieveplatforms@gmail.com. Catch y'all later. Hey, feel like your voice needs to be heard? Ever wanted to be on your own podcast or even be a part of one? Guess what? You now can right here at the We Believe Digital Network, but we'll make it happen. You can catch us at this email, at this location, and this phone number.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
You're watching Doc and Sock on We Believe Digital Broadcast Network. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. You can watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitch, on TikTok, or wherever you get your streaming information from. We Believe Digital, broadcast, podcast, radio show, all media, newspaper, all coming out of the same building. So we're here for you. We'll try to bring you information and another perspective on what's going on in the great state of Mississippi and all over the world. Now, when we were in the first segment of our show, we started to talk about the governor's remarks, and the governor made remarks as it relates to the Nolan Wells case. And again, this is a young man that went out on the 4th of July with a group of friends, all white. And he, being the only black, felt comfortable enough to go out on a boating trip in that regards. And then he never returned. And his body was later found in the ocean. And yet, as of July 27, 28, we have not had a cause of death that has been determined by the scientists, the medical labs, the autopsy, one autopsy in Mississippi, one in Washington, D.C., and no one has been able to say what happened to this young man. Now, the governor made some remarks because he felt like Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, Tyler Perry, and folks like this were agitators, and they were stirring up racism in the state of Mississippi. But because Mississippi has such a horrid history, you know, the world is watching this case. They're keeping up with it in day to day on every news outlet. And I don't think the governor's remark represented the state in a way on a national stage that it benefits Mississippi, Doc. I think the governor should have expressed some remorse, some concern for the life of this young man, and that he should have assured us that the Mississippi will turn over every stone, look under every rock, to finally say that we will bring to justice anyone that was associated with the crime and the murder of this young man, if it's determined to be murder. The governor should assure the state of Mississippi's residents and the rest of the world that Mississippi will do everything that it can to bring light to this situation and ultimately to bring justice for his family. Now, that's my opinion about what the governor should have done.
Well, you're right, he should, but the governor is a conservative man, and he doesn't want to overstep the sheriff in that area by making him feel bad and giving him directives to do certain things. He believes that his good friend is going to do what's best for the state of Mississippi. He don't want to contaminate the thought pattern of those folks, and he leave it in his hand because the man is duly elected, and the governor is just saying that I am going to lay back, say a few words to keep my good position and my status because I don't have to worry too much about being reelected unless he wants to run for the Senate. He would do better by running for the Senate or practicing law or getting a big-time appointment in the private sector. He's a young man. He's made a lot of money. He has a good campaign stats. And at his age, he can get out of politics and make 4 times the amount of money he's making. He has a young family, and he's just in one of the better positions than almost anyone in the state of Mississippi.
Now, Doc, all that may be true, but the citizens all over the world want answers as to what actually happened to Nolan Wells.
Well, they are going to get an answer in probably 6 or 12 months. They're going to get an official answer, I guarantee you.
Will anybody be indicted and charged in this case?
I doubt it very seriously. Now, there might be 1 or 2 poor people up in that area that's not from permanent families that might be taken to trial on minor, on a case like assisting with moving a cell phone, but I'm quite sure you probably won't find anybody being indicted on murder. And it's not going to be any major prison time for anyone that was involved. See, you have to understand there was only one black person allegedly involved in that situation, and that was Mr. Wells. So who's going to prosecute those middle class and upper middle class white boys and girls and others that were there? There were hundreds of folks there. If you read all the literature about this case, they were having a good time, having a party, they were drinking, and all kind of things were going on. That's where you go when you want to evade the law. There's always had places in any state where you can deal in illegal activities and anything you want, smoke dope, alcohol, have all kinds of other affairs going on. And everybody knows it. Police don't even patrol those areas unless they are called. And they just don't care too much about those kind of things.
Now, Doc, do you feel comfortable with sending your son out on a boat trip with all white kids?
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't allow it.
Why?
Because I know the history of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, New York City, Connecticut, Mexico, Arizona. You don't do that if you want your child to come back unless you have chaperones with him or her. You just don't do that. Just because you have a situation going where your child is allegedly loved because he is an athlete or she is a good scholar, and they have the support of people that know they're going to be wonderful people, they're going to have status in the community, I still wouldn't allow it.
Wow. Do you think we've come to a point where we can have interracial couples get married, that race relations have come to a point in Mississippi where one shouldn't second guess that? One thinks it's okay for their children to spend the night, do overnight stays with other races and things of that nature? And have we got to a post-racial society?
No, we're a long ways from it. And you were saying staying overnight with the other race. I wouldn't even allow my kids to stay overnight with the same race, never have. And they are 40 and 50 years of age. I don't believe in that. That is a road to destruction and something even worse.
You never spent the night at some friend's house?
Never. They didn't allow it. Other than my grandmother's house on Saturday so I can be closer to church. And we wouldn't have to walk for about 2 or 3 miles that Sunday after we get up and eat that good old Southern breakfast and have that prayer meeting just before breakfast. My grandmother would have a prayer meeting before breakfast on Sunday, eat that good bacon and grits and cornbread, milk and bread and things of that nature, go to church. And she and my uncle and old uncle, we called him Uncle Bud, they would pray before we eat breakfast on Sunday mornings. And she would listen to the local radio station and she'd be shouting up in there and cooking all at the same time. Go to church and have a wonderful time. That was it. We didn't stay overnight with friends and other folks.
How old were you when you got saved?
Well, I didn't never get saved, but the first time I got religion, I was 13. Now, I've had 3 religions in my time in 3 different denominations. And I got saved the first time when I was about 13 because my mother told me, son, you've been on that mourner's bench for a long time. And you've heard me tell this before. Say, from all the other times, I was responsible for your sins. Soon, you're going to be 14. and you're going to be responsible for your own sins. And if you don't get religion, you're going to hell. You know, I gave you that fire test some time ago. I've been giving it to you all for years. And I had to get religion that night, the last night, because I didn't want her worrying me to death about going to hell. I was already living in hell, so I didn't want to say to myself, I'm living in hell now, and then I'm going to die and go to hell. But I just want to please her. And I got religion. That last night in prayer meeting, you know, we had that 2-week prayer meeting. And then later on, I got 2 more religions. One is Episcopalian church, and another a non-traditional church when I was older.
You are really an experienced person.
I have a lot of religion, sir.
You have a lot of religion.
I was baptized one time. I was sprinkled one time. And the third time, they just laid hands on me and twisted my neck and tried to throw me down and cover me up with a blanket, but I wouldn't fall.
I think they should have held you under the water a little bit longer.
Come on, man. Why you want to hurt me? Have me
I
hurt.
don't want to hurt you, but I want to make sure that you get an ample dosage of whatever the baptizing is supposed to
Well, I'm going to do it one more time.
Okay.
I have a new religion now, which I will expose eventually, but I'm going to go through the religious cycle one more time, and I believe that's going to be the time where I really get saved.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Come to your new religion. And
Thank you. Well, I hope so. I hope
Now,
so.
Doc, we're back to Mississippi, and Mississippi is where we live and work and what we care about. We stayed here. We didn't go off to Chicago. We didn't run off to Detroit. We stayed right here and worked through the danger and all of the challenges of growing up in Mississippi. And in 1946, I was born in Madison County. The black man certainly couldn't go to no hospital. There were no black doctors. We had one doctor, I guess he carried 3 or 4 counties. And so we stayed through all of that. We lived through the Emmett Till brutal murder in the 50s. And then we came through the civil rights events and murders that happened up in the Neshoba County. We come through all that, and Doc, for 2026, for us to be sitting here talking about Nolan Wells is real disheartening. Some say that the clock is turning back for black people. Some say that it's more dangerous for black people today than it was 20 years ago. That we see so many things, murders, George Floyd. We see the lady in Houston. We see all of these things, and Doc is different when it's white crime perpetrated against black people. It hurts us because it brings back a past. But some say that black on black crime is a greater challenge to black folk than white on black crime.
Well, it is. That's true. Who you think killing more black people? Black people. White folks do selective murders for social reasons. They don't kill blacks for economic reasons. They usually kill blacks for social reasons. And black people kill each other for economic reasons in most cases. They are going to get mad at the gambling hall. They're going to get mad if somebody touched them and they lose pride. They're going to get mad if they go to somebody's house and try to break in and to get shot. Their parents and relatives are going to declare that was the best young man in the world. They're going to get mad if someone take the girlfriend, go and shoot him, and then when they give him 40 years in prison and a $2 million bond, folks going to say they were discriminating against my son or daughter when you didn't teach them anything at home. Just on and on and on. So it's all about economics in these cases in most instances.
Well, but you would agree that the impact on black men and women on a case like George Floyd or a case like Nolan Wells or a case like Emmett Till stays with us longer than the killings that occur every day in the streets.
Of course, of course. Well,
It impacts your psyche, and it sets you on guard longer when that occurs.
that's true. But see, the difference is these are national cases. It's Wells and Emmett Till and George Floyd. They are national and international cases. But these local killings are not too grievous, other than maybe 30 days or 35 or 40 days, and it's forgotten. And people going about their business. You don't read it in the paper but once. You might hear it on the news if they kill more than one person 2 or 3 times, and that's about it. Because in Hinds County and many other areas of the country, even in northern states, if you can't get out on bail, you might stay in jail anywhere from 2 to 3 years before you go to trial. The Pendle Farm down there in Raymond is a good example. You might stay there 5 years while you're waiting for trial if you can't get out on bail.
Wow.
Where you gonna get bond money from when you're broke? Your folks don't have any. How you gonna get 10% of $800,000 or $900,000 or $1 million if you had to get a bond? It's not gonna happen. So you stay there 3 or 4 years, and there you are. You're not a convicted felon. You haven't gone to trial. You don't have a lawyer, and if you get a public defender, he's not going to come and see you until that 3rd year, when he finally looks at your case after he looks under a big old pile of stuff, and he might call you and say, I'll be to see you tomorrow morning. We have court at 9 o'clock, or see you in court for the first time. And I guarantee you, you're not going to win that case.
Wow. Now, so things don't look good for us right now, Doc. The Speaker of the House, Jason White, has announced that he has filled the committees to orchestrate redistricting in Mississippi. And many believe that the sole purpose for redistricting in Mississippi is to remove and eliminate the only black congressman that we have in a state, but with greater than 40% of the population. That is to remove Congressman Thompson from his seat.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that. That's the plan. They have had problems in that district for a long time. They've always wanted that district, but during the 60s and 70s and 80s, they tolerated it because they did have a black majority, and they were trying to get themselves together politically and economically. The Republican Party had a hard time in Mississippi in the mid and late 1960s and 70s. They were reorganizing, so they couldn't do a lot of things as far as gerrymandering and redistricting. But now they have a man-made national Supreme Court, so they can do any kind of redistricting they want. Now it'll take 5 or 6 years for it to get to the Supreme Court to be affirmed. But if they wait, that would be a disadvantage. So they're going to do it now. They don't know what might happen in 4 or 5 years when they have a new president. Trump wants another term, but he's not going to get it. And you might end up with a Democrat as the next president, or a Democratic socialist as the next president in America. And things are going to shift then, but they're going to shift more towards what I call internationalism. They're going to have new political forces and new political ideologies in America, because I'm telling you, there are going to be more socialist type elected officials in America after 2030.
I keep hearing this term, socialite, and I understand that the mayor in New York City is catching a good deal of grief now because he's called for open protest of the Prime Minister of Israel. I have difficulty pronouncing his name. And so that mayor of a major city, probably the largest city, is calling for open protests in the streets against the Israeli Prime Minister.
Well, now he knows he can't arrest that man. That's a federal initiative. But being the mayor, And you know he wants to be president of the United States. He putting his team together throughout the various states, so he can say all kinds of things, but he is not going to get the permission to go and arrest anybody at the United Nations. They have immunity from being arrested, and he doesn't have the legal power to do so. Now he could be a renegade and go and have it done, but he'll probably be shot on the spot. And even though he's not going to do it himself, he's going to have his men to do it. If he wanted that to happen, he would be probably on a vacation somewhere in Switzerland. But that's not going to happen.
He claims that there are war crimes that have been committed and that the gentleman needs to be arrested.
Well, they have proven that in the United Nations. You know, there are allegations that they have voted on that. But the man is not going to be arrested while he is the prime minister. And he's going to keep that job as long as he wants to, as long as he can. And he doesn't have anything to worry about right now. The president of the United States has 34 felony indictments. He is not worried about anything. He will never spend a day in jail. And those guys that are rich and have these rich billionaires and trillionaires supporting them financially, you're not going to have any major criminal activities that they're going to suffer for, no matter what they do, no matter how many times they get indicted.
They are above the law.
Above the law, that's right. And if you say there's no such thing, that is a lie. Certain people are above the law. They do not have to worry about going to prison or jail.
And sometimes to be above the law simply means you just need to be white. In the Nolan Wells case.
Exactly right.
Because I don't think these are powerful people like you articulating, but there seems to be some similarity here with the term above the law.
That's correct. Certain people don't have to worry about jail time or prison time. They don't have to worry about $1 million bail. They can call 3 of their friends and they'll get that 10% in 30 minutes.
Doc, I wonder what it's like to be a man that doesn't have to worry about crime being somebody locking him up. How free is that? I mean, when a black man sees the police car, his neck's on a swivel because he knows that the car could turn around and stop him at any given minute, and next thing you know, that he could be in jail and down in the Raymond Detention Center, waiting 5 or 6 years for a trial, as you just said. But will you ever experience that kind of freedom to know that you can do whatever you want to do? And I recall when President Trump was running, he said he could do whatever he wanted to do.
Well, didn't he prove that?
And he's proving it every day.
And he's going to continue to prove it because he has the power and the backing to do anything he wants, because his base, most of those guys and ladies are afraid of him. They want to get like him. So they will condone and endorse anything he does because they want to get in politics and move up and be senators, vice president, to get those great federal jobs where paying $150,000 plus benefits, cars, airplanes, jets, and helicopters, and status. Who would want to do that? Man, this is so-called democracy. This is the land of the home, the free, and the brave. Who doesn't want to move up and be a giant in politics, in religion, in industry? Anyone that don't want to do that got a problem, in my opinion.
But you can't move up. You may want to.
Well, that's right. Certain people can't. They can only go to the glass ceiling and bump their head twice. And if they do that the third time, they're going to lose their job or get killed or get fired against their will.
Now, there's this term white supremacy. And many people don't know what that is. And I think that you are describing some benefits of white supremacy, meaning that you don't have to worry about economic opportunities. You can get a loan, you can go into business, you can fail, you can start over again, you can get a new loan. You can commit a crime, you don't have to worry about ever being charged for that crime, and you can continue to act as you always did. You can demand a respect from others that are not your subjects, but somebody that knows that they depend upon you for their lights and water and their gas. And so you step and fetching is done in a different way. But black man, has never and will never experience a totally free environment where there's no racism and where white supremacy does not dominate in this country. I don't care even if you're in Africa. White supremacy is in charge of that. That's why when after World War II, all of the leaders across the world were installed by white folk to run those countries and be subservient back to the U.S.
Well, that is true. That's history. And you're right. That will prevail through our lifetime and probably for the next 50 to 75 years. But I guarantee you, due to all of this assimilations and mobility of people and the demise of the so-called Caucasian race, in about 75 years, you're going to find that about 80% of the people in the world are going to be people of color. And the white enclave is going to be catered and keeping themselves in little homebound communities and groups. And their power will be diminished. And the colored people of the world will be taking over the major political positions, the major positions in the church, the major positions in industry. I'm not talking about the black ones, but the colored people of the world. And that'll give blacks a little more opportunity to express themselves and be more humane and move forward economically in the world. But it's going to take about 75 years for that to happen. And you're going to find that blacks then are going to become more militant, and they're going to defend themselves more because they will have the numbers in their favor. They will have a lot of nooses and others taken away from their necks and economic restraints. And they are already in a position where most of the blacks that are not headed anywhere have already been killed. And those that are in positions now where they're not doing very much, they are only confused and been miseducated. And you can get that same miseducated black person now and give him equity in education and economics. And in 5 years, that person will come from being a homeless person to an upper middle class person.
Wow.
And everybody knows that.
Wow. Doc, you heard it here. We Believe Digital. Doc projects that things will change drastically in 75 years. And we're going to hold him to that. And so I want you to just continue to watch this program. This is the kind of information that you get here, that this conversation, you will not hear this anywhere else. This is the kind of conversation that enlightens and informs our children and our adults about what's going on in this country, in Mississippi in particular. Now, Doc is one of the most renowned speakers in the country. And Doc, tell them how they can get in contact with you if they desire.
Well, it's real simple. You can call us at 601-201-1957 or send us an email at clu369@gmail.com. I had a great opportunity on Saturday to do a speech at a church. Man, they allowed me to speak at a church, but it wasn't on Sunday, of course. It was on Saturday. They don't allow me but one time on Sunday. But it's a great opportunity, folks, because I give you the real news, stuff that you don't hear on radio and TV and podcasts. I have enough sense not to tell you how to survive 100% because I'm not going to tell you in public. I will tell you in private, in areas where you're in the majority. I can tell you how you can take over if you have 30% of the population in any area. You wouldn't have to worry about gerrymandering or redistricting. You just have to worry about pooling your resources and using the leaders you already have, because some of the smartest folks you find are already in your community.
Give them that number again.
That number, folks, and I want you to use it. Call me. We'll go anywhere in the world. All you have to do is get us a ticket, have a hotel for us, and have an escort for us to pick us up at the airport. The number is 601 201 1957, 601 201 1957, and we'll come and give you one of the best presentations you ever had. Some of you all need to keep in mind, most of you have these programs and you call the same folks, and they tell you the same thing that you hear everywhere. But when you talk to us with the L. Henderson PCAP Media Group, we're going to tell you things that you didn't hear before. How you can save yourself, how you can change your life and status and family in 30, 60, or 90 days by doing certain things, by having this prioritized corrective action plan. You don't hear me talking about that a lot because I have more sense than you think. I'm not going to give you and the enemy all the plans that you're going to need to be able to take over in 75 years all over the world.
You heard it here first at We Believe Digital Broadcast Studio. We want y'all to stay safe and good night.